I want you to picture two families living on the same street in the same suburb of Columbus, Ohio. Same neighborhood, same block, same school district. From the outside, they are basically identical. The first family, let us call them the Garcias, has a 4-bedroom house, 2 cars in the driveway, a kid in soccer, and another in dance class. They go on vacation every summer. They have a combined household income of $95,000 a year. Their neighbors see the barbecues on the weekends, the holiday decorations in December, the Amazon packages on the porch. They look, by every traditional definition, solidly middle class. The second family, the Hendersons, lives 3 houses down. Same square footage, same 2 cars, same sports and activities for the kids, same income, $95,000 combined, same vacation every August. From the outside, you cannot tell them apart. Now, here is what you cannot see. The Garcias carry $34,000 in credit card debt across 4 cards. Their mortgage payment is $2,100 a month on a house they bought 2 years ago when rates were near 7%. Their car loans total $890 a month combined. They have $11,000 in a savings account and $47,000 in their 401ks combined. They tell each other they are doing fine. They believe they are doing fine. The Hendersons have no credit card debt. Their mortgage runs $1,580 a month. No car loans. They drove used cars until they paid them off. They have $28,000 in an emergency fund and $210,000 in retirement accounts. Same income, same zip code, same lifestyle on the surface. Entirely different financial realities underneath. This is not a story about income. It is not even a story about how much you spend. It is a story about what the phrase middle class actually means in 2026. Let me start with a concept that will reframe how you think about class and money for the rest of your life. The concept is this: your class is not what you earn. Your class is what you keep. Read that again. Your class is not what you earn. Your class is what you keep. For decades, Americans were told that middle class meant a certain income range, a certain lifestyle, a certain set of possessions, a house, a car, a vacation, a retirement account somewhere in the background. But that framing has always been a performance metric, not a financial one. It measures what your life looks like, not what your life actually is. Wages have grown, but so has housing, and health insurance, and childcare, and the cost of every single system that a middle-class life requires you to plug into. The boxes you are checking have gotten more expensive. The price of looking middle class has outpaced the income of being middle class. What you keep, your savings rate, your net worth trajectory, your financial buffer, is what actually determines your class in any meaningful sense. And by that measure, tens of millions of Americans who consider themselves solidly middle class are living 1 car repair, 1 medical bill, or 1 job loss away from a serious financial crisis. The first thing you need to understand is that the income range we use to define middle class is almost completely useless without a location modifier. Most people think middle class means a household income somewhere between $50,000 and $150,000 a year. The Pew Research Center has used variations of that range for years, and it gets cited constantly. Because $80,000 a year in rural Tennessee and $80,000 a year in San Jose, California are not the same income. They are not even in the same universe. In San Jose, the median home price is hovering above $1.2 million. A conventional 20% down payment is $240,000. Your monthly mortgage payment on the remaining $960,000 at a 6.8% rate is roughly $6,300. That is before property taxes, before insurance, before the $3,200 a month in average childcare costs for a toddler in Santa Clara County. An $80,000 household income in that environment is not middle class. It is survival mode. An $80,000 household income in that environment is not middle class. It is survival mode. This is not just a coastal problem. It has crept into mid-sized cities people used to consider affordable: Austin, Nashville, Denver, Boise, Salt Lake City. The metros that absorbed migration during the remote work boom saw their housing costs double between 2019 and 2024, and the local wages have not kept pace with the new costs. When you hear that the median household income in America is around $77,000 and you earn more than that, the instinct is to feel secure, to feel like you are above average. But median income tells you nothing about median financial health. It does not tell you what people owe. It does not tell you what they own outright. The Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances found that the median American family has about $192,000 in net worth. That sounds reasonable. But the median is dragged upward by homeowners with equity. Strip out home equity, and the picture gets darker fast. The median American household holds less than $8,000 in liquid financial assets. Less than $8,000. That is not a cushion. That is a short runway. Here's what almost no one talks about. The cost of maintaining a middle-class lifestyle has become a debt-funded exercise for a huge portion of the people living it. Americans collectively carry over $1.1 trillion in credit card debt. That number hit a new record in 2024. The average household carrying a balance owes roughly $6,500 on cards, at interest rates averaging somewhere between 20% and 24%. That means the average indebted household is paying $1,300 to $1,500 a year in interest alone, not reducing their balance, just servicing the cost of having borrowed the money. The middle class is borrowing to maintain the appearance of the middle class, and the interest on that borrowing quietly bleeds the future dry. If you're paying $125 a month in credit card interest and you invest that $125 instead at 7% annually, over 30 years, that becomes roughly $148,000. I am not done yet, because the debt conversation almost always skips the one that matters most for middle-class families: car loans. Americans now owe more than $1.6 trillion in auto debt. The average new car payment, as of 2025, is over $730 a month. The average loan term has stretched to 72 months, 6 years, because that is the only way to keep the monthly payment manageable when the price of a new car averages over $48,000. A huge percentage of Americans with auto loans are underwater, meaning they owe more than the car is worth. When the car is finally paid off, they have no car payment for about 11 months before they finance the next one. It is a treadmill. The people who are actually building wealth almost universally have one thing in common around cars. They buy used, they pay them off, and they drive them until the wheels fall off. The $48,000 new car versus a $20,000 three-year-old version of the same car. Financed over 6 years, the new car costs you closer to $58,000 all in. The used car, paid off in 3 years, costs you roughly $22,000. If you put the difference in payments into a brokerage account over those 6 years, left alone for 25 more years at average returns, it could be worth over $200,000. One car decision. That is the scale of what is at stake. Now let us talk about housing, because this is where middle-class anxiety in 2026 is most concentrated, and where the conventional wisdom has aged the worst. The homeownership narrative, buy early, build equity, never rent, was built in an era of 3% and 4% mortgage rates, and home prices historically tied to local income levels. Rates have hovered between 6.5% and 7.5% for most of the past 2 years. Prices in most markets never fully corrected. At a 7% mortgage rate, a $400,000 home with 20% down gives you a monthly payment of about $2,130 before taxes, insurance, or maintenance. Most financial planners use the 28% rule. Your housing costs should not exceed 28% of your gross monthly income. To comfortably afford that mortgage by that rule, you need a household income of over $91,000. The median American household income is $77,000. That gap is not a rounding error. It is a structural affordability crisis. Somewhere between 60% and 70% of existing homeowners have mortgages below 4%. They are not selling. They would have to give up a 3.2% rate to buy at 6.8%, which means their new payment on the same house would be nearly double. So inventory stays low. Prices stay elevated. First-time buyers get squeezed, and the people who bought before 2022, who are already in, get to watch their equity grow while the door slowly closes for everyone behind them. Buying a house that takes you from financially fragile to financially strangled is not building middle-class stability. It is trading one form of insecurity for another. Nope, not over yet. Because one more cost deserves its own conversation, and it is the one people are least comfortable admitting is out of control: healthcare. The average employer-sponsored family health insurance plan in 2025 costs over $25,000 per year total. Employees pay an average of about $6,600 of that in premiums. And then there are the deductibles. The average deductible for a single person is over $1,700. For a family plan, it commonly runs $3,500 to $5,000 before the insurance actually starts paying substantial costs. This means a middle-class family can easily spend $10,000 to $15,000 a year on healthcare between premiums, deductibles, copays, and prescriptions before anything goes seriously wrong. One hospitalization, one surgery, one complicated pregnancy, and that number climbs fast. Medical debt is now the leading cause of personal bankruptcy in the United States. Not reckless spending, not financial irresponsibility. Medical debt. People doing everything right who happen to get sick. Your budget is not real if it does not include a realistic number for healthcare. Your emergency fund is not adequate if it does not consider the possibility of a $5,000 deductible hitting in the same month as a car repair. Let us talk about retirement, because the shift from pensions to 401ks is one of the most consequential and under-discussed changes in the financial life of the American middle class in the last 40 years. In 1980, roughly 60% of private sector workers had a defined benefit pension. A pension meant your employer promised you a specific monthly income for life after you retired, regardless of market performance. You showed up, you worked, they paid. The risk was on the employer. Today, less than 15% of private sector workers have a pension. The rest have 401ks, where you contribute, your employer might match some of it, and then whatever the market does to that money is your problem. The risk transferred entirely to the worker. And the results are what you would expect when you ask millions of people who were never trained in investing to make sophisticated, decades-long financial decisions on their own. The Federal Reserve data shows the median retirement account balance for Americans between 55 and 64 is approximately $185,000. If you want $50,000 a year in retirement, you need about $1.25 million. $185,000 is not $1.25 million. It is about 15% of the way there. And Social Security, which the average beneficiary currently collects at roughly $1,900 a month or $22,800 a year, will not close that gap. This is not a crisis for the wealthy, who have pensions or massive portfolios or both. It is a crisis for the middle class, who were told that a 401k and a house would be enough. The average American contributing to a 401k saves about 7% of their income. If you want any reasonable chance of a secure retirement, Most financial planners suggest aiming for 15%. The difference between 7% and 15% on a $75,000 salary, invested over 30 years at average returns, is the difference between retiring with roughly $700,000 and retiring with closer to $1.5 million. That gap is not discipline, it is information. People contribute 7% because that is what the enrollment form defaulted to, and nobody told them to change it. Here is the deepest, most uncomfortable truth in this entire video, and it is one I want you to sit with. For most of the 20th century, a middle-class income could produce a middle-class life with genuine security underneath it. A paid-off house, a pension, health coverage through retirement, and Social Security as a floor. That package deal, that contract between a middle-class income and a middle-class future, has been quietly renegotiated. The income required to achieve it has risen. The cost of the components has risen faster. The safety nets have frayed. The primary mechanism that replaced the pension, the self-directed retirement account, requires a level of financial sophistication and consistent discipline that the educational system was never designed to provide. Nobody sat you down and told you the contract changed. You were handed a benefits package, shown a 401k enrollment form, told to sign up for at least enough to get the match, and then left alone to figure it out. The responsibility was transferred to you without the tools to handle it. This video is for educational purposes, not financial advice. Speak with a qualified professional for decisions about your specific situation. But here is what you can do with this information. Today, this week, pull up your last 3 months of bank and credit card statements. Not to feel bad about them, to see them clearly. Add up what you spent on things you cannot recall enjoying, subscriptions you forgot you had, meals you do not remember. Every one of those categories is money that left your net worth without building anything. Awareness is the first and most powerful step because you cannot change what you cannot see. This month, if you have a 401k and you are contributing less than 10% of your income, increase it by just 2 percentage points. On a $60,000 salary, that is $100 a month. You will barely feel it in your paycheck. Over 30 years, at average returns, that 2% increase alone adds roughly $120,000 to your retirement balance. One change, 1 month. This quarter, do the net worth calculation. Add up everything you own. Savings, investments, home equity if you own, car value. Then subtract everything you owe. Mortgage balance, car loans, student loans, credit card balances, everything. The number you are left with is your actual financial position, not your income, not your lifestyle, your number. Do it without judgment. Just know what it is, because you can only improve what you are willing to measure. Now, let me bring you back to Columbus, Ohio, the Garcias and the Hendersons. Same street, same income. Same life from the outside. When the Hendersons bought their house, they ran the number. Not the number the mortgage broker said they could afford, but the number that left them breathing room. They bought 20% below their maximum approval. When they needed cars, they bought used and paid them off aggressively, then kept them for 9 years. When their 401k enrollment forms came out, a friend mentioned the 15% rule, and they set it there from the beginning, years before they felt like they could afford it. None of this was extreme. None of it required a finance degree. They did not skip vacations or live on rice and beans. They just made slightly different decisions at 3 or 4 pivotal moments, and compounding did the rest. The Garcias made the default choices. They bought as much house as the bank said they could afford. They leased new cars because the payment seemed manageable. They contributed enough to the 401k to get the match, 4%, and never revisited it. Each individual decision was understandable, rational even, in isolation. But together, they created a financial architecture that looked like middle-class stability while quietly building nothing underneath it. Here is what separates these two families. Not income, not intelligence, not willpower. It is the difference between optimizing for how your life looks and optimizing for what your life actually is. The Garcias are living inside the performance of middle-class security. The Hendersons are building the actual thing. The choice is not between being rich and being broke. The choice is between building something real underneath the life you already have, or continuing to fund the appearance of it on borrowed money and default settings. The middle class in 2026 is not a number on a tax return. It is not a zip code or a car in the driveway. It is the gap between what you earn and what is quietly building in the background. The number that actually defines your financial class is your net worth trajectory. Is it going up? Is it going up faster than inflation? Is it going up fast enough that you will not have to work until you physically cannot anymore? That is the question, and now you know how to answer it honestly.